HHN 365, Halloween Horror Nights podcast. My name is Mike, and I'm here with my co-host Duff, Jess, and Jonathan. How's it going, guys?
Hey, I'm told I shouldn't respond with a question, so I am doing fine.
I'm
You can
also
respond with
doing
whatever
great.
you want, Duff.
Oh, you don't want that.
Uh-oh. As always, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at HHN365, and you can leave us a voicemail at 407-906-4134. We have a TikTok at HHN365pod, and we have an amazing Discord channel that you can find in the description. We also have a merch shop at HHN365.com. On today's show, we will discuss IPs that we'd like to see return to the event, but utilized a little bit differently than they were before. But before we get to that, do we have any news, rumors, updates, housekeeping?
Yeah, so let's pop in with a few updates first. So HHN 36 Live are now going on month 3 of recurring live series on TikTok. Is coming back this, well, I guess the next Tuesday from when you hear this, the 21st of March at 5 p.m. So we're going to be testing out a weekday, see how that goes. If none of you come, we don't blame you. It's fine. Then we'll just go back to weekends. But we thought we'd kind of mess with the schedule and see what works best. So
Change it up a little bit.
Right. So Tuesday, March 21st, 5 p.m. Visit us in the park. Come get an exclusive sticker. Join us on TikTok. Whatever works best for you. Just come say hi. And then in bigger announcement type news, we're doing it again. Finally. We had a fantastic live trivia at Half Barrel Beer Project the week of the opening of HHN 31. And we're finally doing our second edition. Once again at Half Barrel Beer Project in Orlando. Just a few miles down from the Universal Orlando Resort. That is going to be on Saturday, April 8th at 8 p.m. It's going to be bigger, better on a weekend, so that's nice. And then maybe fun stuff to come out of it. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I have to say, the turnout is probably the most humbling thing that has come out of this podcast so far. And I have got to record on this in the studio on Hollywood Boulevard. I feel like the turnout at the trivia was even more humbling and exciting.
You literally,
you guys packed the place out.
Standing room only.
If the fire marshal had come, he would have shut us down.
Yes.
That's how much turnout we got. It was pretty amazing. It was incredible. Can't wait to do it again.
Yeah. And we will give even more reason to come this time. I'm just saying.
Yes. And with that being said, like Mike was saying, maybe plan to come earlier than 8 p.m. if you want a seat.
Yes. I think last time we were hitting standing room only by 15 minutes before we started. So
yeah,
keep that in mind. I think we recommend at least 30 minutes before if you want to definitely put your butt in a chair. But we'll keep talking about this for the next 3 weeks. So we'll keep reminding you. Don't stress yet. But we also have, of course, some news and rumors. Jonathan, what we got?
Yes. Okay. So the first part here is a construction update from HHN Hollywood. I feel like we're going to be getting a lot of these over the next coming weeks. Their construction is just going, they always go really fast with their construction. But we have a facade starting to take place in the Curious George tent that held the Halloween house last year. I don't remember what number it is, but it's in that tent. And basically you can see a tent in front of the tent, like a mini tent, that could possibly be for the facade. It could also just be like a construction tent. But there's also I don't know how to describe it, but in front of the tent for the facade, there is a humongous piece of just like a wood structure being built up, and scanning various Discords and such, people who have seen it have said that it looks to be bigger than the Halloween facade. So it seems to be a pretty big facade that's starting to be constructed there. I want to give a shout out to my friend Kevin, who went on the tram tour and took some of these pictures. Because we don't live in in California, so it's hard for us to get this stuff. But thank you for giving us that picture. And yeah, so what do we think of this facade? Because I've sent you guys what it looks like as well.
I mean, it's really tough to tell what's going on, obviously. but the sheer size of it, of course, is exciting, right? Could it just end up being something basic like Haunting of Hill House, but huge? Maybe. We don't know yet. But seeing something in a large scale, especially in a Hollywood, out of anything else on one of their tent facades out there in Curious George is exciting.
Yeah, and I will say that, I mean, last year their facade game was maybe the best they've ever had at Hollywood. All their facades were, or almost all their facades were like amazing and
Really
humongous and
impressive,
lots
yeah.
of detail, or just even when they couldn't get big, like in the I think it was the no, it was in the Waterworld queue with Blumhouse. They got creative with the way the facade was shaped and still made it like a very interesting facade. So I am really looking forward to what HHN Hollywood has this year in terms of facades and stuff, because I feel like they've realized that facades are important for houses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. See what they got again, because I mean, only one place to go. We hope. I mean, you could go backwards, but
They very much to go
Well,
back.
I mean,
possibility.
they technically, if there's only one place to go, they did go up if it's bigger than last year's facade that was there.
Yeah, there you go.
It looks cool.
It
To me, it kind of looks like, and I don't think it's this, but it's I don't even know if it was this big, but the what's it called? Seeds of Extinction facade from 2008 was very similarly shaped, that like mall facade, so it kind of gives me mall vibes just from that.
Ooh, that's
I don't know.
interesting.
I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, and we should also mention that Murdy has also confirmed on Twitter, I don't think we've talked about this before, that this is not Chucky. So this particular tent is not that house. We don't know where Chucky's going to be, but he's confirmed it's not here. So yeah. So it's anything other than that house. That narrows things down a bit.
Speaking of John Murdy, what else has he been talking about?
Well, yes. So, as we all know, John Murdy loves talking to fans on Twitter, the creative director of Hollywood, HHN, about just, answering questions and whatnot. And we have a couple of interesting tidbits that we got from him recently, like near the end of last week to when we're recording this. And the first one is someone asked a very, simple question of, hey, is there any new things you're experimenting with this year in terms of houses? And he responded, Chucky is a huge science project unto itself. And he also revealed in response to another tweet that it has the most special effects in a house this year for Hollywood. So how do we feel about that? Do we just think he's referring to Chucky himself? Like, is all the special effects he's referring to is how he pulls off Chucky?
Those are special effects.
I think I know what you're saying. Where you're just saying it's the puppet. Is that a special effect? But I think there's, especially if you look towards season 2, there's so many things that would be special effects that they'd use to make Chucky do something different without spoiling it yet, because
I haven't seen it yet.
Pretty fresh, so. But he doesn't always just sit there and stab people.
Right. There are a lot of different things Chucky can do and does do, and I'm really curious to see how he pulls a lot of it off. It seems like he's attempting to, in terms of this quote. It's maybe pulling off some of the more crazy stuff that happens is something that he's trying to do here. So that makes me excited because I think for a house like that, I mean, for a property like Chucky that goes off the walls, especially near season 2, the house wouldn't feel complete if some of the crazy stuff wasn't attempted.
Oh, for sure. It's necessary. I think it makes sense that this house would have the most special effects.
I need to watch season 2.
Yes, you do. It's very good.
Season 1, you don't even get. You don't even get it. It kind of flips a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say season 1 is closer to, like, the original series in tone. Like, it's not completely, but it definitely leans more towards the sort of, kind of serious route.
Mhm.
And then the second season is, like, Bride of Chucky
Chucky.
onwards, and it just completely gives up on, making sense, and it just goes crazy. And yeah, so, it gives that flavor itself in a house is gonna be very interesting to see how it's contrasted, right? Because if they are attempting both seasons, I wonder if we're gonna feel the divide in the house because there is a very there is a very tonal shift that happens in between season 1 and 2.
Mm.
Mhm.
What network was Chucky on?
Sci-fi.
Right?
Is
Yeah,
that a
Sci-Fi.
Universal, Comcast, whatever? Is that one by them
Yes,
or
It
no?
sure
It
is.
is.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
just to tie this into things we've been talking about every week, a WWE wrestler appeared in season 2 briefly in a
Oh
cameo.
yes.
Liv Morgan was actually killed by Chucky in her Chucky gear because she's a huge horror fan, so she does outfits based off of different horror characters. So I'm just saying that this could let's maybe like a little cameo in the house. We just throw her dead body in a corner, and then that leads to a WWE house in a couple years, and Jess is happy.
I
I
think I was
I will
actually
say
with Jonathan the other day, and we made the joke that Liv Morgan will be there every night of the event, just getting fucked up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the
Yeah, they're
actual,
all logos.
just
Yeah,
take 2 months off WWE. And Jess, I
she
knew
only
the name.
wrestles.
I said the
Oh
name
my
when you weren't
God, Duff,
around.
you knew her name. Wait,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, where'd you
Maybe
change?
because the 365 Twitter has wrestling shit all over it, and Liv Morgan is one of the main accounts that pop up. But regardless, I knew it.
Oops. That I mean, hey, they're all like Orlando locals, and
Mhm.
I don't know, man.
Yo,
One
Liv
day,
Morgan, want to come on the show?
hmm,
I mean, if I meet her, well, we'll get to that.
I will say out of all the scenes in the show that like I want to see adapted, this scene probably won't, but I want like this is the scene out of like at least season 2 that I want to see the most in the house for a very specific reason that you'll find out once you watch the scene. But I haven't laughed that hard in a while. So it was a very good scene in the show.
You said
Okay.
nothing, and I know what scene you're talking about. So,
Oh yes.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Well,
let's carry on since we can't really talk about it deeper. I mean, we could, but
I
no
mean,
Yeah.
I'm
spoilers.
excited to
No
start
spoilers.
this
No
series.
spoilers.
So the next part here is something that we've talked about before, but now we're sort of reining in on it. So John Murdy in the past has said that if he wants to do like he's wanted to make some Orlando originals before, such as Nightingale's Blood Prey, which if you've listened to our last episode, we've talked a little bit about that for the potential of it coming to Hollywood for speculation and Slaughter Cinema. But now he's responded actually in response to one of our tweets, so I kind of feel proud about that. That if he was going to pick one Orlando original to adapt, so like he only has one choice, it would be Slaughter Cinema. So I find that a little interesting.
What a tonal shift of choices.
I know,
For
right?
Nightingale's Blood Prey, one of the most serious houses they've ever done, which sounds crazy talking about killer birds and nurse outfits, but one of the most serious houses they've ever done, to Slaughter Cinema, which phenomenal house, but serious is not a word you can use with that house.
Yeah, and like from my understanding, don't most Hollywood houses go more serious than silly? Like they don't usually have a
Yeah.
plethora of silly houses there.
Yeah, I feel like they'll occasionally lean into comic relief in their more serious houses at moments, but them taking on like the more just straight up funny houses, obviously they have in the past. I mean, you could say Killer Clowns is that. They've done This Is the End 3D, which I didn't get to experience, but like
oh, that's true.
that has to be goofy as shit, right?
Yeah.
And
Holidays in
also,
was it Holidays
Oh
in
yeah,
Hell?
Holidays in Hell.
obviously, I've not seen them all, but This Is the End 3D, goofy as shit, has one of the coolest facades I've ever seen them do.
Oh
From the
yeah.
POVs I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know. I feel like they don't try it a lot, so I can't really say one way or the other how I'd feel about it. So, you know what? Give me some more Hollywood. Let me see how you do with it.
All right. So our next little section here is related to last year, 2022. And he was asked, what is the most complicated maze layout of any of the past houses in Hollywood? He responded, weekend was tough trying to fit in everything we wanted to do in. But then he also responded, there's one this year like that too. So I find it interesting that weekend was the one that it was tough to fit everything in when that one did have like probably the biggest space. I mean, the biggest space. It had the sound stage. But I'm also interested of what house this year is like tough to fit everything in. And if I'm going to take one guess out of all the speculated things on maps and just people guessing and throwing things around, I'd say after having finally finished the season, I'd say Last of Us would make a lot of sense
Mhm.
with that. Because I mean, if
Mhm.
we're just talking about sheer size, some of the sets in that show are humongous, and they go to so many places
So
and
many
so many
locations,
locations that you want to
so many
feature.
scenes you want to hit. And you only have so many
Mm-hmm.
rooms in a house.
Mhm.
And the thing is, if you stretch to the game, like shit, you got even more.
Yep.
So it's yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good shout.
It it also could be something like Chucky too, because Chucky you're fitting 2 seasons in,
Mm.
in one house. That also could be difficult. So I could also see that being something. But those are the only rumored ones as of now that I'd say like that I would guess would fit this response.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like so thinking about The Last of Us now, there were what, 9 episodes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we, this is not the way they're going to approach it, but if we do a scene per episode, that's already 9 rooms or
Hmm.
9 scenes. And what's a mega house is what, 13, 14 scenes? That was like Stranger Things or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
That's they're not going to do
No,
just one scene from each.
it would be
Like,
impossible.
yeah,
Impossible.
that makes a lot of sense with what you're saying, Jonathan.
And also, I have to say something interesting because I mean I finally did finish the show, and I did go on Twitter and basically said, hey, if the show came to the event, like what's been rumored, what do you think? Would you be excited for it or not? And surprisingly, most of the responses, if they were just going based off the show, were no, which I was like interested in, because before everyone was praising the show, so I'm like, why would people say no? But people have instead been saying they'd rather have the game be the
Hmm.
main thing that's promoted instead of the show itself. And I do get that perspective because after watching the show in its entirety without any spoilers, and like there are monsters, but I would say that there are not very many monsters compared to human antagonists, and that the humans were the main the main villains in most of the episodes.
Hmm.
So I'm curious to hear like what you guys would think of that, because I thought that was like I know it's like not really news and rumors, but I thought that was
Yeah.
like a very interesting like tweet topic we could talk about.
I mean, I agree with it, but also at the same time, it's something they've had to do with many a property before, and that's you take the let's look at the TV show. You take what it is, but you just add more of the scary
Mm-hmm.
stuff. In this case, more
Mhm.
infected, right? I mean, they have to do that in so many properties they already have done in the past. That's just the case of making a haunted house, right?
Yep.
But at the same notion, I get that you could just say, well, if you do it off the game, you don't have to imagine doing more because they're already there.
Do you
So
think?
I don't think it would change much at the end of the day because there are slight alterations to the story, but so much of it is the same that if you literally based it off the TV series and then added more infected, it would basically look like the game anyways.
I'm curious which property, even though they're the same property, which version of the property would help Horror Nights more. Do you think it would matter if they chose,
No,
like, if
no.
they?
If you
No.
have the name The Last of Us, I think it's gonna sell the same either way.
Yeah, the IP is
Okay.
huge regardless. This is something that like I never played, but I've heard of for years since it's been around, just because it was that like prevalent in
Mhm.
pop culture.
Mm-hmm. All right. And our last thing here, our last piece of John Murdy Q&A was something funny I thought I should bring up. Somebody asked, "Hey, could you ever bring the original It to the event? You know, the movie with Pennywise and such." And he just responded, "Oh, I've tried." And I read it in that tone, like I just read it like, "Oh, I've tried." So I thought that was funny. I know there's been rumors about it coming to the event in some way or form, Hollywood, Orlando, whatever. And I think this kind of says that's probably false, and also I think we all believe here that also is false. That it's not coming.
Yeah, no, it's
Never.
The most unlikely rumor we've had so far, to be honest. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah.
But hey, if it comes, it'd make a lot of people happy. So
I mean, I want it.
I wouldn't be mad at all.
But do not get your hopes up in any way, shape, or form, to say the least.
But you know what you can get your hopes up for?
Chucky?
I mean, yes, absolutely.
The
That's
escape room.
Yeah.
Me too. Just the event itself.
You can get hype for that too.
main
But
segment?
get your hope. Okay, so the It Escape, there's gonna be an It's escape room in Las Vegas.
It's called Escape It. No, it is. I love it.
It's a great name.
Escape It.
Can you escape it?
It's fantastic. Oh my! Sorry, Jonathan. As you were.
No, you're good. I mean, that's all I had to say. There's an It escape room called Escape It in Las Vegas. It's made by the same people who made the Saw escape room, which is pretty well received. And they're gonna have 2 escape experiences. They're gonna have part 1 is open now. I assume it's just based on part 1 of it, and then part 2 is gonna open a little bit later this year. And Jess, I know you looked up more things than I did because I wanted to avoid spoilers. Is there anything else there that you think you could share about this?
I just saw a couple of pictures that I believe are from inside the escape rooms because they look like scenes from the movie. I will say they have the creepy house and it's pretty spot on. It's just a smaller scale. And you go in the sewers.
Shit.
You are fully immersed. That's all I'll kind of give away from what I saw. But if you want to see it, there is an article out there. Someone posted it in our Discord as well if you're in there. But it looks really fucking cool.
So
it
now
will be around for a couple years, so you'll get the chance to check it out when you are going to HHN Las Vegas.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. No, I mean, I'm sure we're gonna try to hit a lot of the stuff.
Oh,
but
we're gonna escape it.
Oh yeah.
We better escape
We're
it.
gonna skip Saw. We're gonna skip
Blair Witch.
Oh god, you guys don't want to see me.
Rugrats.
Rugrats.
Oh, there's a Rugrats escape room.
There's a Rugrats.
I love the Rugrats.
Yes, there sure is. Duff and I almost did it.
I was in Angelica. I know you're not surprised.
Jonathan is our Rugrat.
Aww.
Okay, I don't like that. But
is he Dill? Are we all the Rugrats and he's Dill?
Oh, you're definitely Angelica.
I know I'm Angelica. Leave me alone.
All right, let's hop into the main segment. I explained it a little bit earlier. Who wants to explain it better than I did?
I mean, it's basically what you said. We're going to talk about IPs we'd like to see return, but done differently. So take that how you will. We'll interpret it how we want. You can interpret it how you want. Our list may vary heavily because of that.
And it not necessarily better, just differently.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
It could be better.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Interpret it how you want.
It's my idea. It's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Sure.
Well, that's what you would say, Duff. So.
All right. Who wants to go first?
You.
I'll go first?
Yeah. I know you got one burning. I know you've been waiting to rip one off.
What? Okay.
I said off, not out.
What the fuck?
We're only 20 minutes in. All right. So, okay, sure. I'll go first. All right. So this one, we have to go back. We have to go back really, really far. We have to go back all the way to Fright Nights. And I think that if we could get a Mad Max scare zone again. So I don't know if you guys remember, there was like it was even before there was it was like technically a show. I think we had like a weird Thunderdome show back in Fright Nights. I think if we got like a 2016 like Tom Hardy like Mad Max style scare zone, this could be really, really, really gnarly and cool. That is my first one.
So Survive or Die the IP.
Yeah, but like, but a lot more
But cooler.
Cooler. Yeah, like like a lot more like things that could run over you. Like bring back the motor.
That could run over.
Bone choppers.
Yeah, bring back the motorcycles.
I like that. I like post-apocalyptic like Mad Max. That's why I like Descendants of Destruction last year so much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So I'd be thriving.
Yeah, I'd be about it. It works. Why not? Especially in the scare zone. I think the space that you need to like get the kinetic energy and shit going.
I feel like it's been a good couple years till we've had a really, really good IP scare zone, and I think if we look into the future, if I close my eyes, be like, what can make this event better? Be some really killer IP scare zones.
See, while I'm not sure I agree with that, I do like your idea. Like, if I'm gonna take an IP scare zone, like that one sounds good. So I mean, I take it. It sounds great.
Well, then what do you have, Dill?
You just referenced something that we very might cut out.
Duff, who are you then? I didn't catch that part of the conversation.
Oh, I'm
Tommy Pickles.
I'm Stu, sitting there contemplating life while making.
Absolutely
You're
not.
100% Tommy Pickles.
You're not eccentric enough to be Stu.
I don't want
Tommy.
to be well, I'm the main
Tommy.
guy. That's boring.
You're
No,
totally
you are Tommy, and that definitely makes me Angelica because I just yell at you all the time.
Okay, I guess I am Tommy then.
You are Tommy.
You're 100%.
If it's based off Angelica yelling at me, I'm Tommy.
Everyone makes sense with Angelica yelling off of them. All right, so who's next?
Well, now
I
you
guess-
have to leave that in the show.
I'll make it work. Don't worry.
Okay,
And if
so
not, the audience is confused as hell.
They'll get it at this point if they haven't.
all right, so I guess
Go ahead,
Alright,
Dill.
who's next?
Yeah.
Jonathan,
Oh my
go,
God.
please. What you got, Dill?
see, it's bad that I don't know any of I know of the Rugrats, but I don't know any of their personalities. So I'm just like sitting here in the back,
When
like
you were
I
born,
don't know
they were
what's
like
going
all grown up instead.
Oh, grown up, I really go. Okay, sorry.
That is the
Oh.
theme song. Yeah.
Okay, so my first property is one that I would assume actually is on one of your guys' list, and it's Nightmare on Elm Street. Particularly, they had Nightmare on Elm
mine
Street.
too.
They had Nightmare on Elm Street, Dreamwalkers. I don't remember what year that was. I didn't write them down. But
2007.
there we go, 2007. But I would love to see Nightmare on Elm Street come back in a new way. Whether it just be doing one of the movies properly. While I do like an original like interpretation, I do think Nightmare on Elm Street is a movie. I mean, the whole series has a lot of iconic movies that you could either pick from or mesh together, like in a sequential way. But I think it would be a good property to really just get you in the classic scenes and not try to do it like I love when properties try to do its own thing, but for something as classic like this, sort of like how Halloween was to people, for people just wanting to be like, what I want to do in a Halloween house is walk in the classic scenes, in the order of the movie. That's kind of how I'd want to do it for Nightmare on Elm Street, with, maybe instead of just one film, it's a couple of films. But I'd like to, walk into it because I love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I think I've only fully watched the first one, but I love that one, and I watched like tons of clips of the others. I need to like actually get on that and watch the other ones. But I think the first one is like a masterpiece, and I'd love to just walk in it. It's I hope Freddy comes back in the future, which I'm sure he will. But
Well, I'm gonna piggyback off you because I chose technically Dream Walkers, but I personally wanted to be only Dream Warriors. I want a straight up Dream Warriors house because I think the imagery and the wild shit they do in that film would fit so perfectly and make for such an intriguing house compared to the other more. Well, I mean, not that every Freddy movie is basic by any means, but you know, I feel it has the most kind of going on that still makes sense at the same time.
Mm-hmm. No, that one would be amazing to adapt. Like I've only watched scenes of it, but all of the kills looked.
Oh, you've never watched it?
I need to watch it. I
Oh,
mean,
Jonathan.
my
I
uncle
100%
composed the score.
believe
I
it.
should have watched it by now.
Jonathan.
I
But
forgot about that. Just light flex on the podcast.
yes, light. That was
Wow.
very much a light flex.
Jonathan, you need to watch all of them and then rank them because this is one of those franchises where, like, well, every franchise you need to rank them, but like, this is one of those controversial ones. Same with Friday the 13th.
I also fully believe that you would be a Dream Warriors fan. I think it'd be your favorite.
Oh,
It is
absolutely.
it's very Jonathan. Like, it's goofy, but in the good way, bad in the good way, stupid in the good way. You know,
It's Eugene's favorite, Jonathan, if that tells you anything.
Can I just pick it up without having to watch?
oh
What
yeah,
is it, 2 and 3?
Yeah.
you don't have to watch any of them, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Okay, well maybe that'll be next
Get
on
it
my list.
pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I just binged Last of Us, so now I'm free to watch some more horror stuff. So I definitely want to fully check it out.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Do it.
Yes.
Well,
It's a rite of passage.
I guess I did mine too. So, Jess,
you're up.
All right, so mine, I feel like this is probably a popular one, but I don't know if any of you guys will have it. So mine is American Horror Story, and there have been a couple of seasons, obviously, since they last did it, because that was in 27. With it was Asylum, Coven, and why can't I think?
Hotel, right?
No, was it Roanoke?
Yes.
Roanoke, yes. That's why I don't remember because I don't love that season. That one was okay, but I really do think that if we did Apocalypse, the 1984 season, and then I don't know about the double feature, probably the NYC one would be more interesting.
yeah.
But again, the NYC one's kind of kinky. So
Unfortunately, it's not.
It was brilliant at the beginning.
Yeah.
but-
mhm.
I think double feature actually. The first half was until the ending was really good,
Yeah.
and I think the why can't I NYC was the concept was really good. I think it just kind of it missed for me.
Yeah.
But saying that, I was going to put AHS on my list, but I knew you'd choose it.
Yeah.
So I left it off. I also partially left it off because I didn't know exactly what I'd want to include in another version of it. So I think Apocalypse is a great shout. 84 is a great shout. After that, I don't know if there's
It'll
really
just be
anything I'd push for.
It could be a 2-part. We don't need to do
Could be.
3-part houses
It could be.
anymore.
I don't know if 84 could carry a half of a house on its own, to be honest.
No, it's too generic.
Apocalypse definitely could. Apocalypse could probably carry a whole house. I don't know how good it would be, but there's enough in it to make a house.
I feel like that series lost me at Hotel. I feel like that was a really hard
You've been
season.
gone for a long
That,
time.
Yeah.
that was a really hard season to get through for a couple of
Yeah.
different reasons.
I love Hotel, and I feel like a lot of people feel the same way you do, Mike. Like,
it's too violent in a very specific way. Jess,
It was like disturbing.
yeah, I don't like.
On a-
I don't like how some of the
I get that.
imagery of it.
It's
For
messed
sure.
up. A little meshed up. But
I
love
wish
it.
I had something to add on your choice, Jess, but I haven't watched a single season of American Horror Story.
So this is where I'll add, and I remember I listened to the episode where Scream Queens ranked them, and
Mhm.
all of you shat on Roanoke, and I actually quite enjoy Roanoke, so I
I
just want
don't,
to point
yeah.
that out.
I'm glad somebody does because I really don't like Roanoke, but I really like
okay.
Hotel, and a lot of people don't like Hotel.
It's true.
So I understand.
All right.
I like Coven. Coven's great.
Oh, Coven's the
Coven's
best.
great.
Coven is the reason I started actually going to Halloween Horror Nights.
I mean,
So-
give me Fleetwood Mac any day. So like that's like
Rumors the house.
I think overall I'm still a Murder House guy. As lame as it is to say, the first one is the best, but like, I love Murder House.
no, yeah.
That's
I mean,
fair.
Murder House is great. I mean, there are some really great seasons of American Horror Story. I have tried to get back into it, just going straight into 1984. I think I got like 3 or 4 episodes in and just kind of lost me.
Oh, see, I actually enjoyed 84.
I
I thought it was
really
one of the
liked
best in a
84.
while.
I think I would enjoy it if I just powered through.
It's very much like watching a Friday the 13th film.
Yeah.
That's why I love it. I would like to see it in a house because of that, but also I won't talk about that just yet. Never mind.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess that's back to me. And speaking of Friday the 13th, I think, and thinking of great IP scare zones, I think that we have recently saw a camp themed scare zone utilized really well at a competitive theme park. And I think a Camp Crystal Lake scare zone would be badass.
Yeah, it definitely would.
I think that would be a very exciting. Now, don't quote me when the last time Friday the 13th was utilized but I know it was, right. Friday the 13th has been.
Well, I mean, Freddy versus Jason would technically have been.
That's true. Yeah, that
Yeah.
counts. That counts.
Yeah,
But on its own,
been a
Friday the 13th was Camp Blood in 2007.
So it's been a very long time. Has it ever been utilized as a scare zone before? I don't believe so.
It was in All Night. Well, he was featured in All Night
He was
Dying, I
featured
believe,
in
in the color cast, but it's not. He hasn't had like his own zone. No.
Okay. Well, let's make it happen with a Camp Crystal Lake.
Well, I'm gonna piggyback off you because I actually specifically had down a Friday the 13th scare zone as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why I said, I won't talk about Friday the 13th right now. But so I don't know if this goes in San Francisco because of the water or Central Park because of the trees.
I feel like either of them would be good, but I feel like you need a little bit more space to let your kind of act, like to set up sets. I feel like San Francisco is a little bit better because you're going to want to build a cabin, right? You're going to want some cabins, things. I think it goes better in San Francisco.
Some cars out there, like parked with,
you really want to immerse people into it.
Mike, they should hire us to design the zone for them.
Universal, if you're listening, we will design your Camp Crystal Lake for you.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, you can fire us after that.
Yeah, just the one zone. Just we'll hide our names somewhere in it, and then we'll leave.
All right. Well, I guess Duff or Jonathan, who wants to go next?
No. Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Okay. I'll just take it because I can't stand the awkwardness. So going back and forth.
Well, awkward? Never.
So my next IP is one that didn't have its full house. It actually only had a section of a house, and this is one of the ones I'm sort of cheating with, but it is an IP that was technically featured at Halloween Horror Nights, even if they weren't allowed to use it. And that's Hellraiser.
Okay.
Yeah, they was featured in.
Cheating, but that's all right.
Hey, it's still an IP that was featured, kind of, even if they didn't have the rights to it, but it was featured. In All Night Dying, and I would love to see Hellraiser get its own house. I don't think it ever will, but I'd love to see it get its own house. The first one, the second one, even the third one, I think has a lot of good scenes that can work. Hellraiser is a property that I'm surprised hasn't been it like Horror Nights, besides this, in the past, it's kind of crazy because this property just feels like something that would just work really well at Horror Nights. There's a lot of good characters. There's a lot of good sets. There's some cool things revolving moving parts and very simple stuff of things just sort of just spinning around, but it creates such an atmosphere. I think this property, if it ever came, would be one of has the potential to be one of the best IP houses just based on, everything it has going for it, even just the classic status it has going for it. I think it'd be just amazing.
Yeah, I think it needs real representation to finally happen. I haven't seen it yet, but apparently the reboot, I guess it's considered,
Hmm.
has, is pretty good. And people have been enjoying it for the most part.
Oh,
Um,
I absolutely loved it.
yeah,
It
so
wasn't like I don't actually. I mean, it's a lot different than the first movie, without spoilers, because it focuses more on the the creatures and that situation rather than the subplot that takes up most of the really the main plot that takes up most of the first one. But I really enjoyed it. I think the new person who plays Pinhead is great. I mean,
mm,
all of the people who've been recasted are great, and I think it's a fun addition to the franchise for sure. And if that was the version that came instead of the original, I mean, I prefer the original because it has more iconic things. But if we did like the only way we could get it was getting the reboot, which I don't think we could because I think it was a Hulu thing. So I don't
mm,
think that would be on the table. But if it,
no,
I mean,
probably
if
not.
yeah,
But I
but I mean,
think
if we did get it, I'd be okay with it.
more just the fact it exists, kind of, it's still an active series, and um, so the house itself, I think like the makeup and
Hmm.
aesthetics you'd see in that house would just blow your mind if they pull it off.
Oh God, seeing some of those creatures, like watching the movie for the first time, even I don't like remember when it came out, but it's a it's a pretty old movie. Like even watching it now and looking at those creature designs, it still freaks me out. Like they are terrifying. Like and
Mm,
I cannot even imagine seeing them like in person. Like that would I would not be okay in that house.
good, that's the point.
Exactly, that is the point.
Well, I guess I'll move on to mine.
Yeah, you're up.
I would like to say I don't actually want this to come back, but I want so badly to have it redeemed because it broke my heart because I was so excited for it and I didn't like it and thought it was an absolutely atrocious attempt on one coast. And that's going to be Haunting of Hill House. I think
Hmm.
it's a beautiful story that has such great moments they could have captured. They really could have made it feel like the house is alive, and I think they just missed on basically every front. And on one coast, it just was Hollywood. If you didn't know, uh, just ruined me. Not in the good way. Not like wrecked me. Like I walked out and I was just like mad at the world because I was so excited for this property, and both coasts let me down at the end of the day. So it's not even a sense of I want it back because it wouldn't make sense to bring it back. I don't want it done in a different way. I just wish I could see a house done well with this property.
I feel the same way. I was sort of debating of putting this on my list too, but I decided to put another thing, which we'll get to later. But yeah, I don't feel as strongly about I don't strongly hate the Hollywood version as much as you do. I think it's still the better of the two, but even still, like especially for the Orlando version, it I want I wanted so much more. I feel like they could have done so much more. I think it would have been pretty simple to do things that they just didn't do in the current in the actual house. And I I don't want to just read everything you said, but it is still I think it is yeah, it's still my biggest HHN disappointment so far in my limited time I've been going to the event.
We're basically on the same page, and
Yeah.
it's not much of a limited time for me, but it's still probably number one disappointment overall.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. As far as disappointment goes, yeah, I think so.
All right, I guess that brings it all back to me. So this next one is a kind of a little bit like you, Jonathan. It never got its full treatment, but it was utilized way more than Pinhead was, and that would be Predator. I think that
Hmm.
Predator,
Mm.
especially with the new movie that was so great, is kind of having a reinsurgence, and I think a jungle themed house that could really utilize to get Predator to get its full treatment, even if it's a Prey or one of the original like '80s fun. Get some, big, muscly Arnold Schwarzenegger type people, and we go full 80s, like original treatment of a Predator house. Either one, I think, would be an amazing house. Let's get some Predator action up in here.
That would be so scary. Oh my god.
It would be. It's so fun. But you're right, very scary. But AVP, if we don't get it, I think AVP is definitely an underrated house. I'm not saying that was a bad house. I think it was actually a really, really good house. If you go back and listen to our dissection of it with Matt from Catacomb of Halloween Horror Nights, a bit of a throwback about a couple years ago, actually.
I mean, I never got the chance to go in it, but just looking at walkthroughs and specifically looking at the costume design of not only the Xenomorphs, but also the Predator, it looked like that is another house I wish I can go back in time to see. It looked so cool from just videos, and the costume of the Predator was so cool on its own, just in that house. Having a whole house based on that character, and movies, whichever one they'd want to pick. Even though I don't think they can, because I think it's Disney, but I think it is. I don't know.
You might
Because
be
I
right.
think Prey was on Hulu, right? The new one.
I thought I thought it got its original release in the theaters. Was it direct to Hulu after? I don't know. I don't keep up with that. This is all fantasy anyway. But
in the end, this is just IPs we want to see, regardless of if they can or not. And if it was possible, or if it is possible, I have no clue. I think Predator would be like a perfect choice for a house. I think it'd be great.
Yeah, there's plenty of movies to choose from if you can't choose Prey because that was Hulu. I think the original would be just as fun.
So who's up next?
I think if we're staying in order, Jess.
All right. So again, this one was featured a little bit more than some of the other ones we've talked about, but it was only part of a house, and I did get to see this, but I really think that Sinister should have been an entire house on its own. I think that movie is genuinely terrifying. I think that portion of the house was the scariest of the Blumhouse in 27. And I wish that they would have just expanded on that instead of including, what was it, Insidious and Purge?
Yep.
And Bagul is just fucking scary as a character in general. So I just think that they really could have done that. I know there's 2 Sinisters, but I much prefer the first one. I would rather just see the first one. I don't know if we'll ever get another installment in that series, but I really do think that should have just been a whole house on its own.
I agree.
So bring it back.
I think it'd be a great solo house for sure. It's
Terrifying.
pretty terrifying. There's imagery that could kind of carry throughout the house. I think there's enough content. Why not?
And creepy kids.
Fucking creepy kids.
Creepy kids always win.
Graveyard games.
That's all it is. I just want Graveyard Games, the IP. It always comes back to that.
Hey, I'll take it any way I can get it.
All right, I guess that's back to me. And it's a property we've had in The Thing Assimilation, but give me the original, the 1982 The Thing. Please. Please, please, please. I know I'm far from the only person who wants this to happen. Like, technically you've given it to us, but I want the original. It would make
good though.
It was good, but it would make all the difference if we got the original. I'd take it as a scare zone. I would take it as a house. I don't care. It is just, 1, a phenomenal film, and 2, I think there's so much you can do in a house, which, they kind of did similar things in the house they made, but it's just not the same. It's just not quite the same.
It is crazy we've never gotten just The Thing. I know everybody says it, but it is legitimately insane.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is teaching me how many movies I need to watch.
You what? Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm very behind on horror.
Jonathan,
like-
have you seen any of the Friday the 13th?
No.
Jesus. Okay, so you gotta watch Jason Lives. It's my favorite.
Okay.
It's very Frankenstein-y.
Ooh, I do like Frankenstein.
That's why it's my favorite. All right, so I'll give you a list of my personals. You know who can give you an amazing list? Hunter. He back during the pandemic gave me lists, and it really helped with like me catching up on things.
Hell
but
yeah!
Back to who's next?
You? No, I'm kidding. Jonathan.
Jonathan has one.
Yes. So this one is a property that has had a house at Hollywood and has not had one at Orlando, and I wanted to have one at Orlando, and that is Creepshow. Hollywood had this, I think, in 2019, and I was jealous when they got it and we didn't, and I was even more jealous when the next year, or 2021, we still didn't get it, and it just seems like the property was done with Horror Nights. I don't want it to be. I think I would like Orlando to do the original movie, maybe the original movie part of the second, like, or mix in the show. They can do really whatever they want with it. The beauty of Creepshow is that there are so many stories that are like really good across the movies, across the shows, whatever, that you can pick and choose from to make for a coherent house. And I'm just kind of shocked that Orlando never got it, and that was a property that only Hollywood ended up having. And I love for Orlando to take a whack at it, because I mean, even Hollywood's looking at their walkthrough videos, looked great. I mean, it wasn't perfect; it didn't have the set design that Orlando would, but I mean, even their house, it looked like it captured a lot of the goofiness and the silliness and the wackiness of Creepshow. And I think Orlando could pull it off really well, especially seeing how good they pull off compilation houses, like Monsters, but something similar to Creepshow, Slaughter Cinema, and Legendary Truth. I think they could pull off a great Creepshow.
Yeah, I recall it being heavily, heavily rumored for HHN 2020 here in Orlando. So much that I actually even watched Creepshow 2 in preparation. And it just never came. I don't know exactly what happened there, but I recall it being highly, highly rumored.
It was case
I mean, COVID happened, but I don't know if there was anything other than that to make it not happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened about it, but I was pretty excited. I think it had seen rumors as both a house and then eventually evolved to a scare zone, I believe is what happened.
Yeah.
And I would have taken it as either. I think it would have worked pretty well.
I don't know. I think it was one of those that maybe just they lost the IP. I think it was going to happen, and then
I think we got to the point where even someone involved mentioned that it would be at HHN or something in an interview or something like that.
It was definitely going.
No, it was. I think what happened was originally it was rumored as a house, and then it ended up being Case Files, which, I mean, you can kind of get those two, I guess, confused if you don't know what's what, because intertwining stories, comic book covers, book stories. And then we had the Shudder, the Crypt TV zone.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Creepshow show was on Shudder, right? I didn't make that up in my head.
It was on Shudder.
So I think that it all just kind of was getting lost in translation, and because Hollywood had it in 2019. And I wish they would have had it, because that house looks so good, especially for a Hollywood house.
Yeah. Wow. Sick burn.
Let me go take a Murdy. That's a verb now.
That's where I was going with it.
I love anthologies. I love I would love to see Creepshow. There's so many stories you can do.
And I know we're talking about Lost in Translation, but I mean, even the Legendary Truth House had a story, or Case Files had a story about like a monster in a cage. So I could see how wires might have been crossed.
Literally, yeah.
I mean, Case Files was
Oh,
very creep show. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but we got Case Files, which was
I'm not complaining.
one of the top tier
Virus,
houses of
get
ever.
in here.
So I'm not complaining. Yeah. All right, on to me. So this one has honestly in the early years have been utilized a lot, and for a specific reason, and you'll realize why when I get to it. But it has not been utilized, I believe, since Sweet 16, and that is Psycho. I think that
Mm.
we could get just a traditional go back to the original, walk through Psycho house that gets not in the mind of Norman Bates, not anything like that. If we get just kind of a classic shower scene type of walk through that original movie, I think could be done in a really, really cool way. Let's go back to some of the classics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd take that in a heartbeat. If you're gonna bring back some of the older properties, something we've already seen, especially, I think Psycho would be near the top of my list for sure.
Yeah, I think now that with the scenic design and just how much they throw into these houses, and you can tell that I think they could really do Psycho in a great way. Like think of like some of these other IPs that we've gotten recently, like The Shining, and some of these others. I think with special effects and things like that, I think they could really do Psycho really, really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love houses where they're forced to get creative with it, and they can't just follow, like at some houses I like when they follow the movie, but I like other things like you said, like The Shining, that has to sort of play around with it and sort of do things to make it work as a house, make it a little more trippy, make it a little more interesting. And from what I don't remember the exacts at all, but I remember like reading about like the mind of Norman Bates' house and stuff like that, and them having to sort of play around with it and do a lot of things that were like have a lot of special effects and things to sort of complement the house and make it work. And it seemed really, from what I remember, like really trippy and really cool.
I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe that was the very first time they used like a tunnel, one of those
the vortex.
The
Wow.
tunnels that was in that house. That was the very first time that vortex tunnel came to the event.
That's crazy.
The mind of Norman Bates.
Yeah. And I think that, besides that, and like it's the first time we got to see an effect like that, it is kind of the perfect house for like a big anniversary year down the line, like a good IP for that, I think. Like maybe at 50 even. Like, I know I said 34 is a stupid HHN number, but I take it back. 50 sounds even dumber now that I think about it. But like HHN 50, how cool would it be if they were like, and for the first time since HHN 16, Psycho or whatever, Bates Motel, like maybe something newer. Maybe we have something by then, but like, how fucking cool would that be?
I mean, it just has such a tie to Universal, the theme park, as well. I mean, we had a Bates Motel on property. I think it would be great to go back to the Bates Motel.
And we had the house too, didn't we? Up on.
Yes, we did up on we had the house and the hotel. Yeah, the Kid Zone is it was right there where Kid Zone was. Yeah,
that's where the Beetlejuice show would happen in the first couple of HHNs was back there. I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember that, but
very early on, it was utilized a ton. But I think, how many times did we get an actual house? Like, I think it was.
I want to say 3.
3 or 4. Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love that idea, Jess, because I know like it wasn't in the main marketing, but in a lot of like side things in terms of like interviews with creatives and some of the Universal blog posts. Like when they were talking about Beetlejuice for 30, they're like, yeah, they weren't just like, oh, we got Beetlejuice, but they're also like, oh, Beetlejuice was, part of Fright Nights, the first ever Halloween Horror Nights, whatever. So having that nostalgia in addition to, a property that, we haven't had like in a long time, whatever, like that would be a great property use for 50.
we're all theme park nerds. We love the history aspect of it, so they can pull at our heartstrings with that easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah, important factor for us. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah. All right. So my next one is kind of a cheat, I guess, but I'll explain it. So the way that we saw this IP, it was technically an original, but it's something that I consider an IP because it's a story. So it's Alice in Wonderland, which obviously last time it was the 3D house, which was an original. So for me, this time I want to see it as the video game Alice Madness Returns. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I've talked about this with people, I believe, on the Discord or on Twitter before. I was obsessed with this game when it came out. It is like the dark side of the Alice in Wonderland story, and you go back and forth between the insane asylum and like the world of Wonderland, but it's a black and white world of Wonderland, and it's kind of steampunky, very gory, a lot of blood. Like it is dark and really big sets. Think like Scary Tales 28 level sets is what we could kind of reach with this potential, but like very monochromatic. And then in the world of Wonderland, I think it could be really cool.
Jess, if you could be in the room with us right now, I have the biggest smirk on my face because Duff and I had it wasn't maybe a 5-minute conversation of whether Alice in the Wonderland was an original or an IP or not.
It was an original.
It was utilized as original, but if it came back, would be considered an IP because it's based on an intellectual property that is Lewis Carroll's story.
But then again, a returning IP. Anyways.
No, that's so funny. That's why I was like, I'm kind of cheating because I had that conversation with myself.
I don't believe you're cheating. It is intellectual property.
Thank you, because what I'm basing it off of.
It was not written by the.
So is Scary Tales are IPs?
I mean, technically, I think that.
No, they aren't. Stop.
They are.
No, I think that is kind of like a moral conversation that creative has to have with themselves on that, honestly, because they are basing these off of intellectual stories. Are they old stories that might be what's the word after a certain time it becomes whatever? It's like open to the public, like Night of the Living Dead is, and that's why it's in every movie. Whatever.
Public domain, yeah.
Thank you. That's the thing. Like, obviously, but like it's still something, it's somebody's art. But it's also like in the same way that like original houses that have sequels is based off somebody's art that might not be working there anymore. So like it's all contractual and it doesn't matter. But what I'm basing this house off of is an intellectual property video game.
Oh, definitely, 100%.
With the license of the Alice in Wonderland world. And they made their own side story off of it. So it doesn't even matter.
I agree. 100%.
Thank you.
You're still cheating, but it's okay.
I don't care. I make my own rules.
We make up the rules as big.
What did you say with guitar lightning bolt? Lightning bolt means dawn or dusk or whatever because you want it to be.
Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Don't worry about it.
So somebody tell me their non-cheating IP then.
My non-cheating IP?
Yeah, if I'm cheating, tell me one that's not cheating.
Okay, fine. Saw.
Oh, boo.
Yeah.
Boring.
Wait, actually?
At least mine was original.
Wait, I'm shocked at this because I know that the 27 one wasn't it that like hated by so many people?
Good.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
It was really not good.
It wasn't
Not
very
good.
good.
No.
But the HHN 17 version was. And I think if you go back to the more just kind of standard go with the traps and the gore and, put people really in that situation and make it scary as hell, that it could be successful again. Simple as
So
that.
what was the problem with 27 that you think can be fixed in a new iteration?
Everything.
So
I mean, it's just one of those houses where it didn't put you in those scenarios. It didn't make you feel the traps and the deaths and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it tried to shove too much of every, I guess, like a trap from every movie in it instead of just kind of following a story. Or if it's about the traps, make it like, I guess there were some memorable traps in the 27 one, but like nothing beyond like the reverse bear trap and like the agent who has to like stab himself in the fucking throat. That's really all I can think of.
And like the thing is, you in the scenarios they put you in, you didn't experience it. You just kind of watched them do it and be in it.
Yeah.
and that was it. Like there was none of the suspense. It was just kind of, oh, it's there.
Did you experience it in the first one, like the original Saw Maze?
Yes.
Oh.
And it's that I think the big difference is them putting you in the trap and the experience of being not physically you in the trap, but you know what I mean? Like what is happening, what the stakes are, rather than just looking at, oh, here's the person in the trap dying or, cutting something off to survive.
I know the story of that one was literally like breaking the fourth wall, right? And it was going like, you people go to Halloween Horror Nights and watch a bunch of death and destruction, but now you're put into it. Like, I think for something like Saw, you kind of need to do that in order for it to be effective.
You're going through it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you're watching it happen to others. It's not happening to you, but it kind of, there were stakes involved. Where in HHN 27 there were not.
Yeah, it was kind of like a museum exhibit of Jigsaw in 27, to be fair. Like, you very much, like, and none of the scares were really coming from any of the traps. They were coming from the pig-headed people. And, like, maybe someone who looked like a mannequin ended up being real and would jump out at you. That's it. So, I didn't really like it in 27, so...
I would like to see. I've never seen Saw, and that is a property I'd like to see for sure in the future, and I'm sure we will. Saw is a property that we're gonna get in the future at some point in HHN's life. But yeah, I would like it to be more like the first one and not like 27, which I did watch videos of that, and it did just look like, here's a trap, here's another trap. Yeah. Guess what's around this corner? A trap.
Was it one of the Saw movies? I don't know which number, maybe 5 or 6. They all look the same to me at this point. One of them was like very public displays of like traps. And I remember specifically like there was one where there was a girl and then 2 guys and it was like a triangle of saws and they like had to decide to kill each other or the girl and like a whole crowd watched and thought it was performance art. Like something like that could be really cool in a house. Like you're walking through, you're experiencing it or something like that. Like, I don't know if that was the whole plot of that movie where like they were all very public, but like something like that, it needs to be different than 27. 27, like I said, was very museum-like.
I think that was the 3D one. I don't remember which number, but it was definitely the one that was like advertising 3D.
They all really jumbled together.
They blend in for me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. After like, I could tell you the plot of maybe 1, 2, 3, and possibly 4. After that, nope.
Well, Jonathan?
So my next one, I have another one on here that I'm 99% sure is on one of your guys' lists. So I'm not going to say it yet, just in case I can just, butt in, when it's said again. So this IP that I'm going to talk about is one kind of like your Haunting of Hill House stuff. And to me, it's Ghostbusters. I've been very vocal on this podcast and other podcasts and whatever of how much I didn't like the way this property was utilized in HHN 29. I just didn't like the book report aspect. I think that, I don't know, I just think they didn't execute it well at all. But I don't think it has to be that way. I think Ghostbusters is a property that you can sort of take in a direction that could be slightly original. I mean, the whole concept of the show was an original thing, and make it work in a Horror Nights house. Ghostbusters is filled with characters that, while it is a comedy, that are scary. It's filled with ghosts that are scary. When you are a child and you're watching Ghostbusters, at least I did, like that, like characters freak you out. They're not meant to, like not all of them are silly. And you can pull from the first movie, you can pull from the second movie, you can pull from the cartoon, you can even pull from Afterlife and whatever other movie they're making after that. There are so many ways to make Ghostbusters have a good blend of humor and scares at the same time. It's never going to be the house that's terrifying, but I think it can be the house that's actually attempts at being scary, like a Slaughter Cinema, and not a Ghostbusters 2019 that didn't even try to scare you. So I like to see the property done it's every art, all this is subjective, but in my opinion, I like to see the property done properly and actually have it fit with Horror Nights instead of doing what I know a lot of people, in creative called like a dark ride. Like, I don't want a dark ride. I want a Horror Nights house, I think that property could be done well.
I mean, I definitely would have liked to see it done well, but I don't want to see it again. No.
That's fair. I would. I just think it's such a classic property that I think it will, in the very future, will have a chance to come back. And if it does, I would, I think they could do it so much more differently and better than just let's do the first movie and go through all the scenes in the same order. I really hated that approach. I think Ghostbusters has so much more potential than that.
Agreed. But don't come back, please.
All right, I think we're back to me with my last one. And this one is, again, I'm going to be stretching a little bit because it has been utilized in the event in various ways a couple of years, especially at Hollywood, but I don't believe it ever got its full house treatment. And I think it would be fun if it did, especially since if we're looking at kind of some iconic slashers that aren't utilized very well, like often, we don't want to always go back to, the Jasons, the Freddys, the Michael Myers. Let's bring back the iconic doll face, pinup girl, man in the mask from The Strangers. These are iconic kind of slashers that have been utilized at the event a couple of times, but I think if we're gonna go back to kind of some great kind of iconic films, let's go back to The Strangers and get its own house treatment.
That is, I think it's something that's been high on my list actually previously. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
it sounds great.
I can't believe nobody else said this, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I can't believe I didn't think about it.
I just never made the connection either of like, I mean, technically.
It has been. I mean, especially at Hollywood, I believe it was like kind of a mashup house. It was like Universal House of Horrors meets The Strangers, where they like threw it in very quickly to be like the main thing.
Yep.
But it also featured like Frankenstein for some reason and like Chucky. But I think let's give it its own full house.
I'm down. I'm sold.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Another movie I haven't watched.
Jonathan, that's okay. It's okay. That's why you're Dill.
Still a baby.
You're just a baby. All right. So for my last one, this is not going to be a shock, I feel like. It is Rocky Horror Picture Show.
What?
No.
No.
What? Never. Me?
Crazy.
Okay, at least I didn't put Beetlejuice on the list.
I appreciate that.
I thought you would.
Actually.
I left it off because I thought you were going to do it.
I'm not delusional. What did you want me to do? It's good. Bring it back, but good. Like, that's all I would be able to say.
So what didn't you like about it, Jess?
Everything.
If you actually want to hear what I didn't like about it, we've done a couple episodes on this. We did Biggest Disappointments. We did our 30 wrap up. Yeah, you can go find those if you really want to hear. Rocky Horror. So here's the issue. I couldn't really think of anything different to do it, though. I want the show back. I didn't get to see it. But if we're going to do the show, I say that we approach it in a little bit of a different way. I don't know if logistically we could ever do this, but they do have some daytime shows that kind of have this element now. I think it's kind of like a random, almost like a flash mob Rocky Horror, and it's just a couple of the most popular songs. You do the time warp. You maybe like There's a Light, whatever. But it pops up randomly in a street, not a scare zone, but like in the street somewhere. And maybe it moves. So maybe one time it's over by Springfield and now it's over in New York, but not the scare zone side. Like Rocky Horror, but it's just kind of like a medley, and it's just kind of dance and scream and sing along and have fun in the streets with your friends.
Okay. I mean,
just to be different.
It's better than just bringing the show back straight up. For sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
It'd be a good replacement for the chainsaw horde, to be honest.
Oh, whoa. Who's replacing chainsaws, Jonathan?
Wow.
Whoa.
Jonathan just took a huge leap.
All
Jeez.
right, I'd like to point out that I did not say take away the chainsaws. That was Jonathan.
Okay, to be fair, what it sounds like they are like, they're not a scare zone. The show isn't a scare zone. And they just sort of go around different areas. I mean, to me, that kind of sounds like just what the Chainsaw Horde does.
But the Chainsaw Horde doesn't start doing the time warp. Right? Actually, maybe what we need to do is put them together.
Oh, it's like a mixture?
Yeah, so it's like the time warp with chainsaws.
I'd be okay with that. That sounds interesting.
That would be cool. Or if we don't want them to pop up in different locations, I'll compromise. Let's do the pop-up stage like that bad group used to have. The small one. We don't need the big one like Carnival of Carnage. We just need like the small one that doesn't have like the lighting rig on top of it and everything. Just a small little stage, and over at the end of Hollywood, let them perform every, I don't know, hour and a half. Bring people up on stage. Have a great time.
Okay. I like a little fun in my event. We can add that, sure.
Thank you.
I think you're onto something, Jess. I thought that the years that it was there always added a fun element to it, a bit of a lighthearted reprieve, and I think it would be fun to have something back like that. Yeah, just where you can go sing along. Not every show has to be so serious,
or have fire.
Right.
or hear me out. We could add more fire.
No.
It's Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now with fire.
It's going to be Rocky Horror Picture Show Spontaneous Combustion.
Walking on the sun.
That's what it feels like in September sometimes.
That's true. All right. Well, I guess I'll go on to my last one, and I saved the wildest off-the-wall one for last, so let's get a little silly here. And I'm going to take an old, kind of in the vein of what you did, Jess, take an old show, but now it'll be a house. And that is Bill and Ted hosting a horror compilation house. Yeah.
How did I know you were going to
do that?
I didn't even touch them. I knew.
I knew it. I knew. I didn't touch it with a 10-foot.
It sounds terrible. No one wants it, but I want it.
I don't know how it
works, but if they're just kind of the hosts of some goofy horror compilation, it could work, and it could.
If they Penn and Teller it,
yeah, basically. As much as I don't want to put it that way, sure.
No, I'm right.
It could even just be a time travel.
Nuke Demas.
Nuked LA. You could just go to like different places in history, and they could be nuked.
Yeah. Sure, there you go.
Every area is nuked.
Is it history in hell?
I like it.
I like that.
I think that idea sounds great.
It really doesn't. You don't have to be nice, but thanks.
No, you keep going into the phone booth every transition. I see some potential.
Yeah.
A time travel house is something that hasn't been done before, and I mean, like Bill and Ted would be great. I mean, would be great hosts for it. It wouldn't be anything too much different from something compared to like, I don't know, Blood and Ghost hosting a bunch of holidays. It could just be Bill and Ted hosting a bunch of different horror, like time travel horror events. Going through history and just making fun things. Doing something fun with that also involves horror. I think will it ever be done? Probably not. But it sounds like a fun concept. Just like as you're talking about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Jonathan, your last one.
I'm kind of shocked you didn't pick this one, Duff. I was kind of counting on it. Jurassic Park. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it could. Yeah, I think it could be done well. I think obviously, back then, we didn't have the technology that we have now. But after going through the Jurassic World escape room that we've talked about on the podcast, I realized being in person, seeing some of the effects they use and some of the things they use and the environments without any spoilers, that man, it could make for a great house. It really could make for a great house. the settings like in either park or world like could work really well. We have the technology to make good at least raptor puppets. I think we could definitely pull off like decent raptor puppets in a house. And I think there's other dinosaurs we can pull off as well. I think we can absolutely pull off something close to a T-Rex or Indominus Rex in the vein of like Clownzilla, or not much the sandworm, but I mean the sandworm did have the, sort of like the opening mouth and close, movement. I think we have the ability to do it. I don't think we will ever have it, but I think it could make for just a really, really cool house. Instead of taking an original aspect to it, just putting you right into the films, whichever era of Jurassic Park they want to choose. I think it could be really well done.
And I specifically would love the original park aesthetic. I think that into like Lost World, if you combine those two, would be a perfect house. And take it seriously, of course, this time.
Mm-hmm. I'm shocked you didn't pick that one.
Yeah, me too. I don't know why I left that off. It definitely crossed my mind.
I wasn't going to put it.
I vote dinosaur movies.
Dinosaur movie. I want to talk about things I haven't seen. All right. Good choices, guys. All right. Before we wrap this up, we have, do we want to do the voicemail first or the message?
Let's do the voicemail.
All right.
Hello again. It's me, mystery caller from a few weeks ago. So now that Grease 2 has made but another resurgence on this week's episode, I felt the need to call in again. That is 4 times. In case you're wondering, I am keeping a tally. So I am here to pose a question that literally nobody asked for. But later this week, I'm going up to New York to see the Broadway revival of Sweeney Todd. And I do think that story would make a great HHN house. So since it is my God-given mission to insert musical theater into spaces where it probably doesn't belong, what would you say would be your number one choice for a musical theater HHN house? I do have to say that I think my number one choice would be the 2019 film adaptation of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats. Thanks for making my drive to work a little more entertaining. Bye.
I mean, cats are terrifying. Yeah. True.
Okay. I just want to say, I love that you mentioned Sweeney and that revival. I need to go see it. Sweeney's one of my favorite musicals. I talked about this actually on the Scream Queens before, and I think it was the episode you guys were on actually. And I mentioned Sweeney as a house because personally that is like one of my dream IPs ever. Story, I don't even care if it's an original. Whatever. Sweeney would be perfect. It's dark, it's creepy. The whole thing is just like dreary and gray. It's London. Like, I think HHN could approach those sets beautifully. The whole aesthetic would be fantastic. I think you are 100% correct. So, and please keep inserting musical theater. It belongs in here.
Yeah.
They've had that aesthetic too before, right? Like in one of the body collectors' houses. Didn't they recreate the like the barber shop like portion of Sweeney Todd in there?
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah,
I
see. I see what you mean.
Okay.
So I mean, like, it seems like it's been. I haven't watched Sweeney Todd, like either the play or the movie. I need to.
The Johnny Depp movie is pretty good. The Burton adaptation is like spot on.
Okay, so is this a case where I can just watch the movie and I don't have to like? It's not like that big of a difference compared to the musical.
Theater purists, I mean, there are differences, but the musical is just longer. It's like a 3-hour musical. That's all it is. The movie is like 2 hours tops, but it gives you all the songs you need to know, the story, the like everything. Just watch the movie with Johnny Depp.
Okay, perfect. But I mean yes, I absolutely need to get on that. But like, if it's anything like the body collectors. I forgot what exactly it was called. Like that aesthetic just looked great. It seems like from recreations and videos of archives of it and whatever, it looks like the setting of London and just could be great for a Horror Nights house.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've kind of done it already. Not London specifically, but like Dead Exposure, Patient Zero. We had the Paris streets. I mean, Chupacabra had the South American streets or the island streets, whatever we're calling it. So they're really good at putting us in these like very authentic settings, and twisting them and making them like full of like darkness and anticipation. That's what a haunted house is. So I think Sweeney is so perfect. I don't know if you guys have any other musicals that you could think of that would be really good houses.
Yeah, I'm not qualified for this, unfortunately.
Yeah. Mike, do you have any? I know you're the other theater geek.
I mean, one is heavily rumored to be featured in this year's event in some way.
Yes.
It's not. I wouldn't want the musical version to be there, but I think Phantom. I think fits the aesthetic of HHN. You mentioned Rocky Horror as well already. Those are kind of the two ones that are off the top of my head that could be utilized. I'm sure there are a bunch of others, but those are the ones that first pop up in my head without also repeating Sweeney Todd, which Sweeney Todd is also one of my favorites. I saw the previous revival with Michael Cerveris and Patti LuPone.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm trying to think of others that have that dark horror tone. I'm sure there are plenty of others, but I'm just spacing them at the moment.
Yeah, I can't even think of any right now. I mean, honestly, like, you could argue like the Addams Family, it was a musical, but like something dark like that, like a Kooky Family, but I wouldn't want that musical adapted to us.
Ones that are a bit more serious than Young Frankenstein, something a little bit more serious. The special or something that's also not just a straight IP, like that too, or it's just
Little Shop could be cool.
Yeah,
Little Shop with
Little
the
Shop
plants
would
could
be
be
cool.
cool.
Little Shop of Horrors would be.
I think that would be a really cool
fun.
house.
That actually would be.
I don't know if it could make a house though. Like just because of the nature of the main antagonist is in, I mean, it's in one room. I mean, you technically can do a house with a room over and over and over again, but does that make an effective house? And can they like? Not only would you have to do the room over and over and over again, but I mean, there would have to be a lot of rooms with like that, like the with that plant puppet, which seems
Audrey too.
Audrey too. But like, I'm just imagining like the amount of money each one would cost, as it increasingly gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like,
hey, if random community theater, XYZ in whatever Idaho can afford to do it, HHN can afford to do the puppets.
I mean, no, that's true, but I'm talking like I'm imagining more of like the movie version, which like. I mean that stuff. I think that was like the puppet was made like by Jim Henson's company.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But like I'm just saying, like even in the stage show version, like the ending puppet has to be one that the actors can go inside of and be eaten, like swallowed whole. 3 of them. So like I think that there is a way to go about this that Universal could really like hit it out of the park, especially if it was a licensed IP and they were kind of getting the help in the creation aspect of it. It could be really cool.
Yeah. Here's a question. Would you rather it be based on just the show or the movie? If we did Little Shop, if they ever did Little Shop.
I don't know if there's any difference.
Is there any difference? I'm not sure.
I'm not either, to be 100% with you. That's not one of the shows I'm like super... I know it. I'm familiar with it. I don't believe there's many differences, but I'm not sure. So, I don't know.
All right.
I've thought of a few others, but none of them are like real serious. Like Jekyll and Hyde
That's
Mm.
very serious, Mike. What are you talking
I mean,
about?
serious that they would ever come to the event.
Oh, okay. I was like, that is
Yeah.
such a dark show. Ooh.
And then there's like other IPs, like we got an Evil Dead the musical, American
Mhm.
Psycho the musical. There's
Oh,
definitely enough there if we wanted to do like a musical house that it was like a musical mashup IP house that we could
I have one that's not, I guess it would still be an IP because it's a musical, but it's like an off Broadway musical, Zombie Prom. It is campy 50s set in a high school. The
Hmm.
like the Danny Zuko character, back to Greece, haha.
Oh, that's good stuff.
That character, he drives his motorcycle into the nuclear plant because his girlfriend breaks up with him. And they literally sing a song about Johnny, don't go to the nuclear plant. Like, it's so camp. It would be like Penn and Teller Nuked Vegas meets like Vamp 55.
I'm into it already.
I thought of
So,
another really campy one that I think would be very controversial. Repo the Genetic Opera.
oh my God, no.
Yes.
That, yes, 100%. And it had like a whole revival on TikTok during the pandemic.
Yes.
All of the little kids found it. So, fully
Bring
that one.
Bring Repo to HHN.
That. But mystery caller, thank you for calling. I will say I do know who you are. The guys do too, but we'll keep you a mystery on here. But thank you for
Mystery to
calling and
me.
thank you.
What are you
Oh,
talking
you
about?
know who it is.
No,
Come
mystery.
on. Okay, mystery. But thank you for keeping tab of Grease 2 mentions. This is now 5.
I'm sure it'll go exponentially soon.
Above and beyond. Jonathan, you got something for us?
Yes. So we actually have a question from a listener. It's not voice. I'm just gonna read it out here. They want to be referred to as anonymous listener reporting from Super Nintendo World, and
Ooh,
yeah, and
Mario.
the question is, in quotes, so I might only be speaking for myself, but I feel like HHN 31 / HHN 2022 illuminated for a lot of us on both coasts how much staffing can have an effect on the event itself. With that being said, as a Hollywood local that only gets to hop over to the Orlando event once a year, at what point in the event's run would you say is the best time to go in terms of getting the most complete experience? Is it opening week, closing week, or sometime in between? And that's the question. Thank you so much for asking the question. And I don't know if I personally know the answer to this one. Do you guys?
I think we kind of need more info on what are you coming with? How long are you going for? To really give a more straightforward answer, as straightforward as we can. I'd say the one thing to look at is usually houses start to come into their own in the middle of the event, and then at least you're still not to the super peak crowds, hopefully by then. So I'd say mid
Yeah,
for that reason.
I think I would agree with that. That's usually like the best time, like when the scares really start amping up, and yeah, I don't know what else to really say on that. I think it's a good time to go.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, not to scare anyone, I still think the end of the event is a great time to go because, by then you kind of have like these insiders with maybe some I don't need to explain that, but like towards the end of the event, a lot of scare actors will get burnt out and you'll see a lot of them actually leave or quit. So the later you go, the more boo holes you might see not full. That's not always the case, but I will say in the last couple of years that has been the case. And it's been really rough for some scare actors, so I don't blame them. Like, and with rumors of more dates and all of that. So I would say like end of September is a fantastic time to go to the event. Some things might be changed and removed from the houses, some scares just for safety and other things, but you're going to get the best experience probably without all of the crowds and the bullshit from October.
Yeah, that's usually when my family comes down. I usually try to they usually try to aim it for around that time as well. It works the best for them and they get a relatively, great, I mean, they get a great experience. But if we're talking like relatively over the entire year, I think they're getting around the best, the best, I guess, staffed experience. And like a mixture between great staffing and great scares compared to the rest of the year.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Well, did we have anything else before we kind of wrapped it up?
No.
All right. Well, as always, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at HHN365, and we have a TikTok at HHN365pod. You can join us on our Discord server. You can find that link in the description of the show. And you can find our merch shop at hhn365.com. And always leave us a voicemail at 407-906-4134. We'll see you next week.